And we're underway and racing. Stay on the brakes, goodness me, what a launch! The outside of turn 1 and takes the lead of the race. Ladies and gentlemen, the Almost Pro Championship returns, and with it returns still allegedly the reserve commentator, Cockcast, aka Joseph Black, and well, we are here for Zandvoort. We are here for the Dutch Grand Prix, of course. The Dutch Grand Prix circuit is it's been described by some as an oversized karting track, but what an oversized karting track can do is it can bring mistakes. The Dutch Grand Prix circuit is hosted in the desert here in Zandvoort, and it is 4.259 kilometers with 2.646 miles being the conversion rate and 14 turns. And 2 DRS zones, the 14 turns, most of them sweeping around each one of these corners. Not many elevation changes around here, but lots and lots of corners that will be very, very difficult to pronounce for one, but also very, very difficult to traverse. We've got our first 4 drivers out on the circuit, Shackleton and Moore still in the pit lane. But Daniel Riley will take us away for a lap of Zandvoort. Watching on board then, on board the Kick Sauber. As I've just realised, there is no game audio. I'll try and sort that one out. In the meantime, there's always tech issues with me, isn't there? As, well, we'll continue to watch with Daniel Riley for the meantime. Essentially, yeah, we paused the stream, but that is absolutely fine. We'll get up that terrifying looking thing. And so we should have audio. There we go, we do. Look at that. Look at me. We're cooking tonight, and well, hopefully Daniel Riley can cook on his lap as he just tries to take as much curbing as he can. That's pretty much the aim of the game, to take all the curb that you physically can around this circuit. Using it as turning and using it just to clip before you hit the exit, and purple second sector, of course, 49.1, and Daniel Riley is going to head around the final couple of corners now in the Kick Sauber to try and come up to the line and set a pretty decent lap time. I reckon it will be as he comes up to the line. He'll be aiming for 1:14, I reckon, as he comes up to the line. He will be beating that at 1:10.4. So what do I know as he comes up to the line and smashes that prediction out of the park? I don't know. What was I thinking of? Anyway, we were watching with Stuart Woodard. Let's watch instead Stuart Woodard as he heads through the second sector now, looking to beat Daniel Riley's time. It will be Connor not setting a time, or a time good enough to challenge. It'll be Kyle 2 tenths behind Daniel Riley in the first 2 sectors and hoping to make that up in that final one. Otherwise, he'll be on for a 10.6, and he will be up in second out of 2, which wouldn't be ideal for him at this point in time. But it wouldn't be too terrible either, just to get a time on the board and just to get the session underway. And it is a 10.7 that he has set. Chenkovan up to the line, and it's going to be quickest. It's going to be 109.8, 6 tenths faster than Daniel Riley. And that is a statement sent to the rest of this field about the fact that, well, he's here to win again tonight. He's been here to win every single race this season. He is here once again, and he is here ready for a scrap at the top of the standings. Not that anybody will likely have the pace to challenge him tonight, but we sincerely hope that they do. Shackleton has in the past challenged him, and Shackleton is now on his own outlap, ready in the Ferrari to try and do something with that scarlet red car. So far in this session, nothing has come of it. But he's now going to try and do something of it. He hasn't set a lap time so far, sitting in the pit lane for the majority of the early portion of the stint. But he'll try and do something within the next few corners. As we have somebody who potentially could be racing tonight, but at the moment is not. So we could be having a 7th driver in, a brand new driver in tonight, but potentially not. So we shall have to wait and see. But as we watch Shackleton's first run, we'll take a we'll take a brief peek at the drivers' standings. So Andrea Chenkovan at the moment dominant right up top with Ethan Shackleton in P2. Just 24 points behind. Then Carl Stewart-Woodard is on almost half of Andrea Chenkovan's points, 72. And if Chenkovan had just the 4 more points, he would be at exactly half the points total. And Aaron McGurk sits in P4, 10 points behind Carl Stewart-Woodard. He will not take any further part in this season. Daniel Riley, 10 points off of Aaron McGurk. His attendance over the last couple of weeks has been, well, not there. So he will try to find his way up, and I'm sure he'll be up there pace-wise. Connor Stewart-Woodard, after a podium last time out, is in 6th place, 2 off of Daniel Riley, with Brian Moore just the 1 off Connor, and Lucas Erasini not racing tonight. 13 points off of Brian Moore as Shackleton does challenge Chenkovan. He goes faster than Chenkovan, and Chenkovan slots it straight back up there with a 109.4. And, well, these lap times coming in are something to be proud of for these drivers so far. But looking at the constructors then, and it's Ferrari, really. And then the battle for P2 is on. Or could potentially be on, with McLaren on 122, Kick Sauber on 101, Williams on 98, and then nobody else with any points because there hasn't been any other drivers for any of the other teams. So the top 4 in the standings, ready to scrap away. But yeah, I hope we enjoyed those little self-made graphics. I realised that I put it over the line, so oops. Hang on, I can try and fix that now. Then we can look at what a real good graphic would look like. This is what it should have looked like. Here's what you could have won with the line just above. Ah, that's perfect. Why didn't I do that? Oh, well. Anyway, Andrea Chenkovan, leader of the championship. Lead of these lap times as well, with Shackleton in P2. And these two have really been setting the pace so far this season. Because ever since Aaron McGurk left, to be fair to Shackleton, he's held a candle. He really, really has held a candle to what Chenkovan's been able to do. Not necessarily last time out, but this time, definitely so. The game sounds on, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Thought so. Not sure why it's so quiet, really. Whoa. I can turn it up, but yes, there will be the Williams coming in at some point this evening. I will just turn that a little bit more up. And there we go, Jammy Boy 8745, aka George Chapman, in P7, ready to set a lap time around this circuit and ready to set his first run for for his APC campaign, and we'll see where he stands. I'm hoping that it's somebody that can hold a candle to Chenkovan and to Shackleton at the top, but I'm sure those behind are hoping that it's not, so they can pick up their own podiums, run their own campaigns, and try to challenge, not necessarily for the top 2, but P3 wouldn't be bad going for any of those drivers this season. And they just stay exactly where they are as it stands, battling for that P3 that was vacated by McGurk last time out. And, well, it's not a bad start to their campaigns, and it won't be a bad finish either. If they finish in those positions, you've got Bayern Vortex, a.k.a. Kyle Stewart-Woodard, getting ready for a second run around the Zandvoort circuit, or Circuit Zandvoort, and he will be coming up to the line with 7 minutes 50 left on the clock and starting a lap time that he will hope will be better than a 1:10.7, which has currently got him in that fourth place. He's trying to challenge for third with Daniel Riley. Any further up would be a blessing for Kyle, but he heads through out of the end of the first sector, and we'll see where he ends up improving too as he comes up to the line of the first sector, and he's improved by 1/10 of a second, so not too bad stuff. But that is if he wants to challenge with Daniel Riley, he will want to go as high up as he possibly can, and so he will try to find 6/10 of a second to catch potentially the drivers up in front, being Jenkovan and Shackleton as it is at the moment. But with just 7 minutes left on the session, the time is starting to run out. Of course, that sounds like a lot of time, but Iron Vortex losing 2/200ths of a second in that second sector. The McLaren trying to close in on Daniel Riley. He's got to find 3/10. He won't find 3/10 if he drives like that through the final corner. And he now backs out of that lap and surely comes into the pits, because he will not be going again with the momentum like that, essentially. And yeah, he does indeed come into the pits. We'll see where Chapman goes in his first run as an APC driver. What's he going to do as his first impression? First impressions are important. His first impression is only 1/10 off Shackleton, so that's not too bad going for the Williams driver, who's trying to replace the void left by Aaron McGurk, and so far not taken up by anybody else. But that's not too bad going, and he goes up to third. But Jenkovan extends his lead at the top and goes to into the 109.399. First place by over now 4/10 of a second is Andrea Jenkovan. He's going to try and hope that is game, set, and match for this qualifying session with 5 minutes and 45 left on the clock. But there is plenty of time for drivers to set 1-2 more laps, something along those lines, and try to get up there with the two Ferraris. They currently lock out the front row, as they have done pretty much ever since Aaron McGurk did vacate the series. And of course, he is a big name in some of these discussions. But for now, they are happy to stay as they are. Still no game. There is game sound. No? I think there is. It's just very quiet, so I can turn it up even more. Right, 100%. And then... well, that'll explain it, because it was on 1. There we go. Is that better? It certainly looks better on my end. 4 minutes 45 left in the session, and there's enough time for, I would presume, one more run. There's still some drivers that haven't set necessarily representative of their own pace lap times. I reckon Shackleton's got a little bit more in him to chase up to where Jenkovan is at the top. I feel like Chapman has more in the tank, and he was just hoping to get a valid lap in first before he did anything fancy. So he could be battling for that pole position. Someone like Daniel Riley, I feel, is closer to Jenkovan than he is at the moment. And, well, all will be revealed within the next 4 minutes as to who is the quickest around the Zandvoort International Circuit. And, well, why it's going to be Andrea Jenkovan is another question that we can debate after it. But no, if somebody else is able to challenge with him, I will be thoroughly, thoroughly impressed. Chapman did come into the chat to try and warn me that he wasn't in the session yet, so that is entirely my bad, because I've only just opened up the chat now. That's probably the first chat message I've had while being the caster for APC. So you can't really blame me too heavily. This is Connor Stewart Woodard getting ready for his final run in this, or you'd think it's his final run in this qualifying session. He might be able to squeeze another one in, looking at the times. I reckon he might be able to squeeze another one in, but whether it's going to be on a new set of tyres or a worn set of tyres, because he will be going for more than 2 laps, is another question, and how much that will affect the McLaren is what we shall wait and see. Daniel Riley also coming out on his outlap. They will be joined in a minute by Jamie Boy, George Chapman, and well, not just them, but a few other drivers on the racetrack. But at the moment, those 3 out on the circuit getting ready for their final push laps, and we'll see if anybody is able to hold a candle to the 2 Ferraris sitting on the front row. I think everybody in this field would be happy with a lap time in the 109s. I certainly would be, but we'll see. We'll see if anybody's able to get up there. Krypton World is going to go for 2 laps of warm-up. before he sets a valid one in this, or before he sets a good valid one in this race, or in this qualifying session. And with 3 minutes left on the clock now, it's crunch time for these drivers. 2 minutes left on the clock even. It is almost certainly crunch time now. Well, he's the only one on a push lap at the moment, is Krypton World, Connor Stewart, but everybody else is out waiting for their laps to start. The only one not out is Chenkovan, who's decided that he's not going to improve on that 110.3 or that 19.3. Sorry, he's happy with that lap time, and so he will be taking that lap time into the race session. You would imagine he is going to come out of the pits now, but it's going to be very tight as to whether he's going to be able to reach the cutoff point, as we might be having our last few lap times thrown in now. Jammy boy George Chapman is heading through the first sector, and it looks as though he is pushing, but how hard is he pushing? Because this could just be a lap time once again that isn't representative necessarily of his true pace, but instead, yeah, there we go, 1.5 off, so he's not pushing that hard. And he is waiting for that final lap time, so 2 lap runs from those two. Daniel Riley in that second sector. He is, though, going for a proper lap and a proper run. He is a quarter of a second improved in the first 2 sectors. And where can the Kick Sauber go as he heads up to the line? It's going to be a very, very close one as to whether he's going to be able to make it into the 109s. He's going to try. He's going to come up to the line. It's going to be a 110.2. So he does not quite go into those lap times, and he's going to have to go once again, or he won't because he's run out of time now. So he's going to start the highest of P4. Brian Moore heading through the first sector, coming up to the split time, is improving by a tenth and a chunk. And the Kick Sauber is going to now try and close in on those lap times. Ahead of him, his teammates a 110.2. Himself a 111.9. So there's time on the board for the Kick Sauber. And whether he finds it or not, that is the biggest question. He comes around now to the first of 2 DRS zones on this lap. I'd say the second one, it starts in this lap. So I'd call that one the first one. It's a contentious opinion, though, I know. And, well, he comes out of it looking pretty okay for that lap time. And now we'll come around the final corner as the checkered flag is now waved for all of the drivers. And, well, everybody has been able to make it round. Shackleton will not be improving on his 109.8. And he will not be improving position, will Brian Moore, either, with an 11.3. Exactly 2 seconds off of that pole position time. We're going to watch with Connor Stewart Woodard as he heads through the first sector. We will not, because he is not improving. But in the final sector, on a whole other spiel on this lap, Jammy Boy, a.k.a. George Chapman, is going to come up to the line, and it's going to be a 109.7. So he goes onto the front row. What can Chenkovan do? He can find 2 more tenths. He can find a quarter of a second more. This is insane stuff from Chenkovan, who's just banging in lap after lap after lap. Every single lap time that he set in that session would have been enough for pole position. And that is the true testament to an incredible driver. So Andrea Chenkovan takes pole position away in this Dutch Grand Prix. And he's done so in dominant fashion, 6 tenths ahead of Jammy Boy George Chapman, the debutant, in second place. And his teammate Shackleton just a tenth behind. So those top 3, it's looking spicy for this Dutch Grand Prix. And we will have to wait and see for race day whether there's going to be any sort of scraps going on. But I reckon there will be. The top 3 separated by 6 tenths of a second, and then Daniel Riley a further 5 tenths behind. It is Carl Stewart Woodard, 1.5 seconds off the pole time, 4 tenths off of Daniel Riley, with his teammates and brother just 4 hundredths behind him. And then 2.6 seconds off is Brian Moore, who will be disappointed in that lap time, but will be looking forward to rectify it in the race. But of course, the race is very, very soon around the corner. We've got 4 British drivers now. We've got 2 Barbadian drivers, and we've got 1 Croatian. And the Croatian appears to be a cut above the rest. Don't go away, folks, because race day is very, very soon, and we will be getting going here in the Almost Pro Championship for another round very soon. The not the Australian. What am I talking about? The Austrian Grand Prix was my debut here, fun fact, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Dutch Grand Prix. It is right around the corner. Get those predictions in the chat then, as to who you think's going to win. I think Chenkovan. I think that is essentially it. As Kyle comes into the chat and says, and comes in with some fighting talk, saying that he had the pace for P4, but he bottled 2 good laps. So we'll have to see what he's able to do as we head into race day now. And the Dutch Grand Prix is very, very right. Very, very right around the corner. It doesn't make sense in English, but I hope you know what I mean. I mean, you should know what I mean. You're supposed to know what I mean, even though I might not be speaking English properly because I'm the caster. But it is what it is. P1, said George Chapman. So even more fighting talk from him. We've got a couple of drivers who reckon they've got that pace to take that victory today. Or at least take a higher position than they got in qualifying. We'll have to wait and see as everybody is also admiring the lap of Chenkovan, 0.1. Insane stuff. And as we head into race day, he'll be hoping to replicate that sort of pace advantage over the rest of the field, but we will be hoping that he does exactly the opposite. Just for entertainment purposes, more than anything else. Because I reckon now that we've got George Chapman in as well, we've got 2 drivers who are able to be on the pace of Chenkovan on their dails. That's so far, that's what we've seen from Chapman, which is a promising sign. Of course, the championship battle between those two, not necessarily existent because of the fact that he joined halfway through the season. However, it is a long season, so we will never know until we know. It's not over until the Fat Lady sings, and we're going to go to the 5 red lights here in Zandvoort for the formation lap. And it is, as I said, never over until the Fat Lady sings. The Fat Lady has just rolled out of bed, as we are now only about halfway through the season. Don't forget as well, we've got a season break coming very soon to you. In fact, this is the last race for a while. We will come back on the 22nd, I believe it was, of April. And that is when we get back underway. We'll have a look then at the calendar. And there we go. It is the 22nd of April where we come back for the Monza race. A very, very good circuit. One of my favourites of all time. It promotes some great racing. And I'm sure it'll promote a great race ahead here in APC. But yes, this will be the halfway mark of the season here in the Netherlands, and well, Singapore afterwards, round 9, then Texas, then Brazil, then Las Vegas, and then Qatar, and then after Qatar we have one more round, which will be, of course, as F1 always does, Abu Dhabi to round us off. By that point, F1 25 will be out, and the future of the league will be decided. I think some would like to keep it on 24. I think there's an argument to be made, because it's an absolutely awful game, and the fact that it's being moved or to being off of all platforms next season, that could ward off a number of drivers. But we are getting ready to go for the 5 red lights here in the Almost Pro Championship. Round 7 is ready to get underway, and we have 7 drivers ready to get underway as well. It's Chenkovan on top. He's got a new challenger alongside him in George Chapman, who'll be trying to challenge for that top spot. And of course, Shackleton, who won in Belgium, is going to try and fight here. We've got the 5 red lights on for the Zandvoort race, for the Dutch Grand Prix. And it's action here in the sand dunes. Chenkovan gets off to a good start. It's Daniel Riley and Shackleton side by side into turn number 1. Shackleton trying to go the long way. Daniel Riley maybe even trying to get past George Chapman into P2. Can't quite do it. And Shackleton tries to sweep around the outside, switch to the inside, makes that move stick. But Daniel Riley's still going to try and fight this one back. He can't do much though. And he does drop in behind Shackleton. Holds P3 for the time being. But he has dropped behind 5 tenths behind Chapman and Chenkovan at the top. Cenkovan, who is leading this race by just over 0.3 of a second ahead of George Chapman. We've seen Brian Moore drop out of that DRS range on this first lap already, although he might be making it back in by the time that we actually get DRS on lap 2. But at the moment, he stands 1.1 seconds behind Stuart Woodard, and Stuart Woodard in P5 and P6 at the moment. But DRS will be available on the next lap of 36, and we'll see if Chapman is able to pressure with Cenkovan. Hello in the chat to Peachy Nuzzle, by the way. Good to see. It's not the first message we've had tonight, which is good. Good to see that we've got some interaction coming in the Almost Pro Championship chat. Make sure to subscribe if you're here right now. We've got 4 watching, I'm presuming some are drivers. But looking at it, Shackleton has just dropped DRS, so that is huge in terms of this race. How on earth has he dropped DRS there? He must have made a mistake in the first corner, but the Ferrari dropping out of the DRS 1.1 seconds now behind Chapman in P2. That could be absolutely vital for the race, because he's now going to be pressured by Daniel Riley into the next DRS zone, and he's got nothing to fight back with other than the fact that he is ahead on track position. And that means that George Chapman is released to attack Cenkovan if he so desires, 0.6 behind. And the DRS is open for the first time in this race now. And the Williams closing in on the Ferrari, but can't quite make the move stick for the time being. It's Connor Stuart Woodard as well outside of the DRS, so the gaps are starting to form at this point in the race. And, well, it's an early point for those gaps to start to form. As we only head on to lap 3 with Cenkovan leading. But fastest lap headed George Chapman's way, and we could have a challenger. We could have a challenger for P3 with Daniel Riley going the long way around with DRS. Trying to get through. He tried to get through on Shackleton on lap 1. Can he make it stick this time? Yes, he can. And around the outside, down the inside, into Hugen Hodsbosch. He makes that move stick. And, wow. Shackleton will be hoping to fight back, but with those two losing time to the two at the top, and it's only ever increasing, I think it's going to be a battle for P3 that's on, as it is in the whole season, but this time Shackleton been reeled in by those cars behind. He'll be hoping for a safety car at least to catch back up to those cars ahead, unless he just gets incredible pace. But yeah, Shackleton desperately wants to get past Daniel Riley, who is only just ahead of him. And, well, Kyle Stewart would have in there as well, so he could provide a thorn in the side of these two drivers up ahead. And, well, the battle for P3 is well and truly, or yeah, the battle for P3 is well and truly on. Shackleton is down the inside into turn number 1. Can he make this move stick? He can't quite. He's going to have to get it into Hugen Hodsbosch, but he has done it. And I believe there was contact between Daniel Riley and Bayern Vortex, a.k.a. Kyle Stewart Woodard, into Hugen Hodsbosch. But, yeah, just, he's dropping back now, is Kyle. Lap 4 of this race, and we've got our first yellow flag as George Chapman has gone off the circuit. And, well, the man who could have challenged Cenkovan has just dropped off and will not be chasing Cenkovan today unless he gets some sort of supreme overspeed, a speed boost from somewhere. He is at the moment 1.7 seconds off of the battle for P2 and only just ahead of Kyle Stewart Woodard. But yes, we head on to lap number 5 now. Cenkovan continuing to lead. Shackleton now 4.7 seconds off with Daniel Riley, the only challenger for that P2 as it is now, as opposed to a battle for P3. As in comes Kyle Stewart Woodard to the pits, so potentially damage between himself and who was it that he hit? Was it Daniel Riley that he hit, or was it Shackleton? It was one of the two, but at the end of the day, he comes in now. It is a new front wing bolted onto that McLaren car. So, well, he must have made contact somewhere. It did look like there was contact. But, yeah, he comes out at the rear of the field. And the only DRS range now is for Daniel Riley. Although, to be fair to Chapman, he's making his way back into it. He could be getting into that DRS very soon, especially if Riley and Shackleton trip over each other. Down the main straight one more time, heading on to lap 6 of this race now. And Daniel Riley right behind Shackleton. He's not making that move, so I think he's just trying to sit in at the moment. He's not quite close enough to make a move, even if he wanted to. And Daniel Riley at the moment just happy to sit where he is, just behind Shackleton. P2, I think, will be the target for the kick Sauber. He won't mind that Chenkavan's running off with this one. But if we see a mistake like we saw with Chenkavan last week, that could open up, or the week before even. No, it was last week where Chenkavan ended up crashing. It could be a potential for Shackleton to get back into the championship fight, especially if he takes victory here today. We didn't have many finishers last time out in Belgium Hungary. Belgium was the week before. Belgium was the last time you saw me. You had Alex last week, so they're all rolling into one after a while. Even though it wasn't me, it's like a... Oh, what's the word? It was Belgium last time out. No, it wasn't. I'm wrong. The Hungary VOD hasn't been uploaded. But, yeah, lap 8. Lap 7 of this race now. Not lap 8 yet. Getting too ahead of myself. Time flies. We're having fun, eh? And it is Chenkavan who leads this one. The gap has stabilised between himself and Daniel Riley. And George hasn't been able to make those same inroads into P3 at the moment. And he's going to try now to do that. But he was 1.2 behind. He's now 1.5 behind. So the progress that he was making has sort of been stunted. The Williams not quite having the same pace he did early on in the race. And Chenkavan looks as though he's going to romp on to take another victory here today. If he doesn't make a mistake. He made a mistake in Hungary. But we will see what he's able to do. These two still staying within DRS range of each other. Daniel Riley losing a little bit of time though to Shackleton. And now potentially could have dropped out of the DRS on that last lap. And on that last detection zone he indeed has, I think, because he hasn't opened it around the corner. But some don't. Some choose to open it later on. But no, he certainly hasn't actually got that DRS. And he's going to try and close in down the main straight. He hasn't quite got the pace as... that is Chapman into the pits. Is he going to get a front wing change, or is it a legitimate pit stop? It appears to be a legitimate pit stop onto a set of the medium. Was that the mediums, or was that the hards? I'm colourblind. It's the hards that he's gone on to, and I think he's now. That's a regulation pit stop. He's now going to try and take them to the end of the race. Riley, yes, has now confirmed dropped out of that top pack, or behind Shackleton, and he just sits in P3 as it stands. And we're on lap 8 of this race. We are, let me do my mental maths quickly, 4.5. No, what am I saying? What am I saying? Are we 4.5? We're not 4.5 all the way through this race, are we? No, I'm being stupid. So 8 is 4.5. You times 8 by 4.5 and you get 36. So anybody in the chat help me out? I'm trying to think what percentage that is as Brian Moore comes into the pits. So 5% would be... No, what am I on about, man? So if it was 40, then we would be 5% through this race. It's not, it's 36. So we're 4.5% through this race. I think I was right, first off. I think I've just been stupid. But yeah, I think I'm right in saying that. Am I? I hope so. Anyway, but yes. Right, we are on lap 9 now, so despite the fact that I did all that mental maths, it doesn't quite stack up. Okay, it was... Oh, it's 25%. Is it? 9 out of 36. Oh my god, yeah. Oh my god, I'm stupid. Yeah, okay. 9 out of 36 is a quarter of the race. So we are now just over a quarter of the way through this race. And, well, it's looking like it's going to be a Ferrari 1-2 again, which could be good for the championship. For Chenkovan, at least. But Shackleton's going to try and hope, at least, that it's not going to be the case. Because he wants that victory. He wants to close that gap in the championship. Down just that little bit. It was very... Right, okay, listen. Maths is not my strong suit. 4.5. What made me say 4.5? Oh, anyway. Yes. We are now over 25% of the way through this race. And it is looking like it's going to be another Ferrari 1-2, which is good for Chenkovan, not so good for Shackleton, who's going to try and battle with Chenkovan for the title. Daniel Riley in P3, he's happy, he's said, with battling as high up as he possibly can, regardless of where he ends up battling. And generally, he expects to be off the podium, so the fact that he's on the podium at the moment, he'll be happy about, and he won't want to let it slip, or at least... That's what he'll be telling himself as he heads down in all of those positions. Or holding on to P3 for the time being. He's 2.3 seconds off of Shackleton, so he won't mind being in P3 for the time being. But, yeah. I think he's just sort of settled in P3 is what I meant to say. Sorry, I took a second to try and work out what I was trying to say, and now I have articulated it. But yes, now we are 33.3% through the race. So there you go. I can do my mental maths. I think the maths has really ruined my mind this evening. It's thrown me off guard. But yes, I think it's 33.3% through this race anyway. Chenkovan continues to lead in P1. Shackleton now 8 seconds off of Chenkovan at the top. Daniel Riley in P3 has just jumped over 3 seconds behind, and then it's 7 seconds back to Connor Stewart Woodard. Then 9.8 seconds back to the debutant George Chapman, who's not having the day of his dreams at the moment. Pace-wise, he's looking very good, but mistake-wise, he is certainly not. As well, the one mistake that he made dropped him all the way down from P2, battling for P1 to P5. This race is sort of reminding me of 2022, 2023, when it was Joe Guan Yu fighting for the podium. We got Kick Sauber fighting for the podium again. Might have been 22 when he was Alfa Romeo, potentially, but when he was up there. The only thing that we haven't got yet in comparison to that race is rain, but I think rain is potential. If you watch an onboard, it's looking nice over there. No, it's just looking nice in general. It looked a bit murky a second ago. You can see why I thought it looked a bit murky, but then the blue skies take back over, so it doesn't really. It's not going to rain. It's certainly not going to rain. I think it was the other way around as well. So I think the rain was first in whenever it was that Joe was in the podium positions, and then it was dry afterwards. But Yeah. I mean, the weather will be fine for this race. Have we had any rain so far this season? I don't think so. If I remember rightly, we haven't. But I could be very wrong. Anyway, we don't talk about it. If I'm wrong, we don't talk about it. If we're right, then I gloat about it. Into the pits comes Daniel Riley. He's not the only one in the pits. Or who's come into the pits. In fact, he is the second Kick Sauber to have come into the pits. The first one was Jedi, aka Moore, a couple of laps ago. But we'll try and now close up as he exits the pits. Potentially runs over the line just a little bit there. But he hasn't been penalised. And he's all good to go in 5th place on those mediums. Everybody else who came in so far was on those hards, but he reckons he can take those mediums 22 laps to the end, which would be, I think he could do that pretty easily, considering he took those softs 14 laps. I think that's the strategy here. It's hit around now for a set of the mediums, or pit earlier for a set of the softs. Nope, hards. Shackleton now comes in as well. So Daniel Riley, who's having to push on his outlap, we'll see where he goes in comparison to Shackleton, as this was the closest gap in the field on the last lap round. We'll see where Shackleton does end up, as now he's coming out of pits and he's going to be nice and simply ahead of Daniel Riley. I think the first corner. It's so weird, this pit lane, because you come out in the first corner. That's actually been removed for safety purposes in oh no, that's been added for safety purposes, but it's removed for safety purposes. What do I say? It's removed because they don't really care that much about safety, is what I meant to say. In like GT4 racing, for example, where they just come out heading into turn 1, which is Tarzan Boshed. And those are the 2 corners that I know the names of. So don't ask me anymore, because I won't know the answer. But I'd say that knowing 2 is, pretty impressive stuff. Chenkovan comes in, probably for a set of the mediums as well. And, well, the 2 Ferraris pitting on the last 2 laps. I don't presume that Cenkovan's going to lose the lead to anybody apart from Connor Stewart. Would it be a great story if Connor was able to lead this race as he heads around the final corner? I don't think he's even going to lead this one as Cenkovan is released now. He's going to head out of the pit lane, and yeah, Connor comes in and picks up a 10-second time penalty for his troubles. So Connor Stewart Woodard, very unlucky there, and a very bad time to pick up that penalty. And wherever he comes out, he's going to be 10 seconds behind, but he may well get away with it because now he's coming out of the pits, and Brian Moore hasn't even come around the final corner. So, yeah, he gets away with it. Shackleton is in that DRS of Chapman now, with those new tyres. And he's now going to try and make that move, which I think it's about time for Shackleton to make that move. I think he's just going to want to breeze past him quickly. Of course, George on a more worn set of tyres, as Shackleton now looking to the inside, darting to the outside. Not quite making that move, but he's gotten around the outside now. He's got that grip as well, and he's going to pull alongside George Chapman, braking late into the chicane, and he makes that move stick. It's Shackleton up into P2. It's George Chapman down to P3. He's going to try and fight back, though, as they head around the final corner and up to the main straight. He'll have the DRS as well, which will open right there. So he's going around the final corner with it open. It's not necessarily a gamble to do so, but it does mean that it gives you an advantage as well. He pulls alongside as they're about to head into turn 1, and that is George Chapman back ahead and up into P2. It's just all about now for Shackleton trying to get past, as he'll feel as though George Chapman is a lot slower. He's on an old now set of those hard compound tyres. He's the first one to come into the pit for a regulation stop onto a set of the hards, as Shackleton dives to the inside, dives to the outside, tries to find his way past George Chapman, but at the moment Chapman holding firm in P2 and defending away ahead of Shackleton. But he can only do so much, and I'm sure there will be a DRS very, very soon where Shackleton can just breeze past and then try and build up the gap. If I was him, I'd go through on the main straight, because then Chapman won't have anything to fight me back for at least a sector and a half, something like that. So it gives you a good opportunity to break away if you're on the fastest tire like he is. And he is going to wait for the main straight to get past Schenkervan, fastest lap of the race, 1:11.7 dead. But around the final corner comes Shackleton. His teammate will open up that DRS, will pull to the inside line of George Chapman, who squeezes him right close to the wall. And he's going to try and go out the long way round is Chapman. The inside line is handed to Shackleton, who makes his way up and takes P2. Late lunge, though, from George Chapman to try and stay alongside, but can't quite do it. P3, once again his. He's going to stay close, though. The top, well, second and third match so closely together as it stands, and it's interesting because George Chapman's on an older set of hards. So you think he'd be so much slower, but alas, he's not. He's actually very, very matched on pace to Shackleton. But potentially it was because Shackleton is desperate to get past the DRS. They will try to aid the Williams just that little bit as he tries to set himself up for the main straight. That's the real point of that DRS, so not to make a move into the chicane. Contrary to apparently popular opinion, where everybody decides to make a stupid send from miles back into the hairpin. Around the final corner comes Shackleton one more time. Does Chapman have DRS? I don't think he does. No, he doesn't. So Shackleton has done well to demonstrate pace, to stay away from that DRS range of Chapman as it stands. And that is exactly what he needed to do on that last lap. It's an 11-second gap now between Schenkervan and Shackleton. The debutante, Jammy Boy, aka George Chapman, doing not bad at the moment, sitting in P3, and now he could be reeled in though by Daniel Riley on a new set of those mediums, and he's going to try and get through. Is the kick Sauber and get past the driver in front. He's closing in. He's 2.1 seconds behind now. He's now going to be 1.9, I would imagine, as he heads through the chicane. Yes, indeed he is. He's 1.9 seconds behind, and he is closing quite easily. And, well, he might get DRS on that next lap, and then he'll get the perfect opportunity to get past Jammy Boy, and a.k.a. George Chapman. I'm still struggling to get those real names down. But, yeah, nonetheless, he's not quite going to be in the DRS this time, but he's closing significantly down the straight, and it's going to be in the corners where he's going to get even more time. Lap 20 of 36 now, and Daniel Riley is almost within the DRS of Chapman, who's not shown that same pace that he did in the first stint with those softs on, but of course he hasn't, because he's got those hards. I'm not sure why he came in so early to switch onto those hards, but indeed he is. It was a choice, and now he is suffering the consequences of trying to go for the track position. Daniel Riley will get DRS down the next straight and down the straight after. We'll shape up a move somewhere in between them. But it's open now, and well, he's 8/10 behind, and then it's going to be 7. And then late braking means that he will get within 6 seconds, or 6/10 even. The car in front of Schenkervan goes even quicker, a 1:11.5. It's 1.72 seconds faster. No, not point. It's 0.172 seconds faster than his previous lap time. There's contact between the two as Jammy Boy tries to defend aggressively from Daniel Riley, but the kick Sauber making his way through. Could be, though, as he opens up the inside line, could be Chapman fighting back. No, it's not. He stays in P4. George Chapman closing back into the rear of Daniel Riley, and we'll try and make this move soon. 4P3. He'll want to retake it. What he feels as though it's his. And he's using all of the tyres. He's extracting all of the performance to do just that. As they head around, they will get DRS down the straight. And we'll see whether he's able to get past. Looking to the inside, darting to the outside. Looking to the inside again for him, but he doesn't quite do it. And he stays in behind for the time being. Will, though, have the DRS down the main straight. I'm sure he's going to get past using that. As what has happened here? What? George Chapman's crashed. Sorry, I didn't even clock it. He's come into the pits and he's retired. If it's anything like the driver, I don't know if it was last week, but before. Yeah, he just lost the rear on the exit. I just went, what? But yeah, he's lost the rear on the exit. And he's fine. The virtual safety car is out. So is he. And he retires from the session. See if he leaves. I'll be very, very disappointed if he does indeed leave. But we have seen it before. No, he's still in the server. How much longer? Who knows? We had someone last week who left, then begged to join back again, saying, "I'll be fine. I won't leave. I won't leave. I won't leave." Then left. So, yeah, it's always the case with new people. You don't quite know what to expect. He was pacey, but just inconsistent and made those mistakes. But yeah, genuinely didn't notice the fact that he'd gone into the wall, which is... Well, I'd noticed that he'd gone into the wall. I looked back and went... What do I mean look back? I looked and I went, oh, hang on. Like, he's got no front wing. Like, I got that he clipped the wall. But I was like, hang on, he's got no front wing. Then it's a virtual safety car. It all happened so suddenly. And, well, it flies. We've got, potentially, a battle on track. It's for the first time in a while. We've got a driver closing in on another rather than the gaps increasing. It's going to be Carl Stewart Woodard closing in on Brian Moore ahead for P5. I really botched my explanation, didn't I? I do that a lot where I'm like, I make it sound worse than it is. I made it sound like, oh, I wasn't watching. But I promise you I was. It just didn't register in my head that that's what happened. As soon as I say, by the way, that Kyle's closing in on Brian Moore, Kyle goes 2 seconds slower than Brian in the first sector. So, what do I know? And, well, the man on older. Who's on older tyres? I think it's Kyle. Yeah, it is Kyle. But Brian is on a set of 10-lap-old mediums. So, or 14 even, lap-old mediums. So, it's very... I presume this is about where they start to drop off. Maybe a little bit longer. Daniel Riley is hoping that they're going to last 20 laps until the end of the race. I think. Was he? He was trying to take them 20 laps, wasn't he? It'll say like 8. Oh, he's taken them even longer. He's taken them 22 laps. Chenkovan, Shackleton, and Connor are taking them 12 or 20 laps even. Shackleton's taken them 21, but. Same difference. It's really not. He's closing in again, 3.1 seconds behind. And, well, it's just a case of not making mistakes now. And he will be able to sweep past and take that P5. I think, at least. He's gonna do his best to, as it stands. But, looking at the driver's standings, of course, we know what's going on in P1. But those behind, the implications of this race mean that it's going to be Chenkovan who's now going to be 166 with Shackleton 134, and then Kyle, if he gets past Brian, which I'd imagine he will take 10 points home, so he'll move up to 82. Daniel Riley will take 15, so he'll move up to 67. He'll move up to 67. He will be just the 5 points behind Kyle. So the battle for P3 is well and truly on. Connor will take 12, so he'll move on to 62. And he'll be 5 points behind. Brian will take P6. And so he will add 8 points to his tally. But the battle for P3 is rather feisty in the championship. Sorry, I wanted to make the most of the graphic that I made, or quote unquote made, over the last few minutes. Of course, at the start of the race, it was weird and misaligned, and I've made it aligned again. So I was pretty proud of that one, and I just wanted to show it off anyway. Back to the racing action at hand, and it's 2.6 seconds between Stuart Woodard and Moore at the moment, and it's appearing to come down gradually. We've got 10 laps to go in this race. I reckon he's going to catch with 3-4 left, and then we should have a good battle on our hands between the man who's had such a disappointing evening so far. Afternoon in Netherlands, evening in Britain, and Brian Moore, who he stayed pretty consistent. He's stayed out of trouble, and I'd say he's done okay. So to finish last would be, I'd say, disappointing, because he's been all right, all things considered, for Brian Moore. There should be some indication on screen of who is who, because I have no idea who you're talking about, because real names versus gamer tags. So to give you a rundown, because I find it difficult for me to run through it as well, which is why I do so many AKAs. That's just when I forget. It's Andrea Chenkovan P1, Ethan Shackleton P2, also known as Ernest for some reason that one time, Jamie for some reason as well. Well, I know why Jamie, but Ernest Shackleton, the author, never really crossed my mind until I've talked about Ethan Shackleton, and then Daniel Riley, aka Daniel Riley. Then Connor Stuart Woodard in P4, Brian Moore in P5, then the other Stuart Woodard, Kyle, in P6. I hope that's easy to follow. But yeah, I tend to do a mix of both. It's just whenever I remember. All you need to know, if you're a new viewer of the Almost Pro Championship, is that Andrea Chenkovan is going to win this championship, and it's only a matter of time. Like, let's just take an objective look at it for a second. Andrea Chenkovan will move on to, after this race, 166 points, despite even retiring from the lead of the race in Hungary. Shackleton will move on and will take 134 points, which will be 32 off of Chenkovan. If Chenkovan had won that Hungary race, he would be moving on to 191, and Shackleton would be on 7 points less, so he would be on 133, I think. No, it would be 123. So the gap would be like 60 points, 70 points. So yeah, it's not the most competitive championship, I would say. But he is only over a race victory ahead. So it could all go so wrong if he has another retirement or something along those lines, and then suddenly Shackleton is blown right back into contention. Chapman as well could be in for it, but as it stands, he won't be picking up any points today. I don't mean that as in he's what am I saying? What am I waffling about? Who knows? Who knows ever what I'm waffling about? But yeah. Oops. Anyway, they are continuing to. They're continuing to go around this circuit, as we are on now lap number 29 of 36. And you've got Andrea Chenkovan, who is dominating this race. He's 15 seconds ahead of Shackleton. And he's not too far off lapping somebody. if one of these bottom two have an issue, then he will be lapping them. Which would be insane if he did lap them. Stuart Woodard has now made his way back into the DRS of Brian Moore and will be getting it down the next straight unless he makes any mistakes in between now and the detection zone. And he'll be now trying to fight with Brian Moore, swapping positions. He's been quicker over the last few corners. And he's been quicker over the last few laps. But one mistake means that he will drop behind Brian Moore once again. And I think at this point, it's going to be difficult to catch up. Didn't I say 4, 5, 6 laps left? Something like that. And he's caught him with 6 laps to go. So I'm pretty proud of that call. And now, with that DRS, he's now going to try and pull alongside down the main straight. It's an interesting one where you can activate that DRS around the corner if you want to take that gamble. And of course, all these drivers want to take that gamble so they can close up. And, well, now he's 2 tenths behind. He's now 1 tenth behind, pulling to the inside line. And that is DRS exemplified as Carl Stuart Woodard makes his way up to P5 ahead Brian Moore. That is exactly what the point of DRS is. And that's exactly also why DRS is being removed for 2026 in preference of another ERS system. As Brian Moore tries to fight back, pulls onto the grass to try to get past, but can't quite do so. And just sits in now behind in P number 6. But he is shaping up a couple of moves. He's looking a bit racier here against Kyle Stuart Woodard. Whether he's able to keep up is another question. But he's looking, certainly, racy at this point. And he's going to have that DRS that's going to pull him along and help him stay within range, but not too close with the momentum that Kyle Stuart Woodard gets out of almost all of the corners. However, that one wasn't great, and he's lost 2 tenths to Brian Moore behind, and the DRS is now going to be available for Brian Moore behind the McLaren as they head down the main straight, but he's not going to pull into the slipstream. Instead, he's going to look to the inside line or just back out and just stay in that position. As it stands, Chenkovan is closer to lapping the cars ahead than being overtaken by Shackleton behind, and that is absolute dominance. However, he is fuel saving, and Shackleton, therefore, has been able to close that gap ever so slightly, and currently sits in P number 2, out of 14 seconds off of Chenkovan, and 11 seconds ahead of Daniel Riley in P number 3. They're not doing badly, are they? The 2 Ferraris at the top, and they are extending that lead. Again, it's another championship where the winner is almost done, but the position behind is being scrapped over. Of course, in the drivers, it was 1 and 2 that are pretty much done. It's Shackleton in there. Not going to be quick enough to catch up to Chenkovan, not slow enough to fall in behind. But it's the same sort of difference. Just ignore the 2 Ferraris in all the championships. And we do have a great championship battle on our hands. DRS once again for Brian Moore, by the way, but he will be unlikely to close in, and he's now 8 tenths behind. We don't have, by the way, any of Owen Boldero this week. Not sure why he's abandoned us, but can't believe him. Can't believe him. He's abandoned us for this race around the Netherlands. He got one taste of Alex Bagnall last week as a co-com and went absolutely not, never commentating with that guy again. I just want Alex forever. And fair enough. So would I don't blame him. Yeah, don't blame him at all. I'd much rather be with Alex than with me. But, yeah. It is what it is. To be honest, I'm glad there's a little bit of a break the next couple of weeks. Mainly because as Daniel Riley comes into the pits again, sacrifices that podium position. Must have had a front wing change because there's no reason why he would have come into the pits otherwise. Because he's going to sacrifice that position to Connor unless he feels as though he can catch up to Connor and get fastest lap. Anyway. I'm going to Paris next week, which is very excited. Owen and Alex against the world. Oh, that's so cute. That's so real as well. Owen and Alex versus me and Edward. They should hire Alex. No, that's not. That's toeing the line. No, I love Alex. He's great. He did well last week considering what was going on with all of the tech issues they were having. So, wait, is Owen in Paris? Is Owen? I know he's going. Anyway, I'm going to Paris next week, so it's exciting. I think he might be. That would explain a lot as to why he's not here tonight. What am I doing in Paris? Eiffel Tower. Might rent a car and go around the Formula E pre-circuit. The Formula E pre. The Formula E race circuit. Or the E pre-circuit. This is a street circuit. Could just walk it, to be fair. Might do that. That'd be fun. Walk it, put it in 2 times speed, stick it on TikTok. There you go. TikTok sorted for the evening. Purple sector for Daniel Riley. So he has got the pace. I reckon he's going to get pretty close to Connor, you know, and I reckon... Oh, Connor's got a penalty as well. What? Is it just 3 seconds? Because we've all stayed relatively penalty-free this race. No, it's 10 seconds. Okay, well, Daniel's sealed P3. And he's just going for that extra point. And potentially a little bit of race action as well. Classic Paris activities. Well, yeah. Who knows what Owen's doing right now. Watching this race, probably. Shackleton's coming to the pits as well. He wants that fastest lap that Daniel Riley is likely about to take. So we've got 3 drivers close together on the circuit. Fastest lap, there we go. Daniel Riley would have been out-qualifying Brian Moore. And wouldn't have been too far off his own qualifying time for Daniel Riley. And he's now within the DRS of Krypton World, a.k.a. Connor Stewart Woodard, up ahead. Not that he needs to pass him, because Connor has a 10-second time penalty. But you can always get those sorts of things removed. And so he will be now slightly nervous about getting back past the McLaren on what will be the final lap of this race. Schenker will lead us onto it. And everybody else is in Sector 2, or even if you're Kyle Stewart Woodard or Brian Moore, in Sector 1, which demonstrates the dominance that Schenker has had as Daniel Riley looks to the outside, doesn't make the move, pulls to the inside now, tries to get the traction down, but he won't. He's got the DRS on the exit, and, well, he's just going to sit in behind P4, is what he's going to hold for now. Down the main straight, though, I'm sure he's going to go for a move, as Connor is much slower than him down in the corners. And Daniel will take advantage of the straight line speed advantage to get past the McLaren and to take that podium on track. However, Connor's making that to McLaren very, very wide. Pulling to the inside now, Daniel Riley. Can he make that move stick? As well, he pulls to the inside. Could be braking late. He is braking late, but he does seal that position nice and comfortably. And, well, Shackleton is now going to try and set a fastest lap of the race to steal that point back off of Daniel Riley, because they all count towards the end of this race. And they all count towards the end of the championship. However, rounding the final corner, it is going to be one of the most dominant performances you will ever see in a league race. It's been one of the most dominant championships so far. And Andrea Schenker, fresh off retirement last week, has come home to take victory here in Zandvoort. And, well, Shackleton, the man in second, is about halfway through Sector 2. Looking at it now, here he is. And, well... he's going for that fastest lap to try and steal it off of Daniel Riley. Is he going to be able to do it? I don't know. Daniel had that DRS, I think, on that lap, which would have helped him. But across the line will come Shackleton to take P2. And up to the line he comes. Is it fastest lap? No, it's not fastest lap for Shackleton. I don't think, at least. It didn't come up. Daniel Riley P3, 4th for Connor, and 5th place for his brother. And then Brian Moore will round out the field in P6, with the only retirement of the session being our debutant here today, George Chapman, who did retire from the session very disappointingly, to be honest. And, well, it is what it is. That is the end of the race. He's not left, so good. And Shackleton taking what is potentially not particularly well deserved. Not particularly well deserved driver of the day, because I think it's only really Chenkovan that can hold claim to that. The man sitting on the podium at the moment, P1, he's so used to taking first place, and he's taken it once again here today. And, well, pretty good for him. As he extends now his championship lead. Looking now towards the next round of the season. I'll bring that graphic back up, shall I? Where is it? There it is. Looking towards the next round of the season, it will be Italy. Not next week, the week after. So don't turn up next week expecting a stream. You'll be disappointed. Italy is the next round of the season. Apologies. Where we will head to Monza to see a race in front of the Tifosi. And then it is Singapore and Marina Bay. Then America and Texas. Before Brazil, Las Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi round us out for the season. We will see, potentially, some interviews coming in, as I will jump into the broadcast booth now and hope that we could potentially be seeing drivers coming in. But yeah, I'm sure there's a couple of people I want to speak to tonight about the performances. I want to speak to Andrew Chenkovan. Not that I think he'll join, but I'd quite like to speak to Chenkovan about what he thinks about his dominance and whether he thinks anybody is going to be able to catch him. Sources say no. I don't think they will. But you never know in league racing. You really, really never know. And so he could be caught up easily before the end of this season. And to be honest, that would be quite good to see somebody challenging for once Andrea Chenkovan and his incredible performances in the championship so far. We have got a driver into the waiting room, so we'll pull him straight into the broadcast booth. And, well, I'm hoping, Daniel, that you can tell us a little bit more about the race that you just had.
Yeah, that was, I'm really happy after that. Really, really happy. Obviously, I expected I was going to get P3 before at the start of the race. Then Jammy Boy all of a sudden got P2, and I was like, okay, yeah, P3's out the window. Yeah, then all of a sudden he just started slowing down. I'm not sure if he had front wing damage or not. And then literally I passed him, and then I saw him spin literally behind me. Not sure what happened, but we take that, P3. And then I saw Kyle. Was it Kyle or was it Connor? I think it was Connor. They got 10-second time penalty, so I just had to pit on the final lap. I did do a hit on the final lap in Belgium, and it didn't work out. But I'm really, really glad it worked out today. And yeah, just positive thoughts overall.
Well, yeah, I mean, you did end up taking that fastest lap, I think, at the end of the race. I didn't see anything pop up for anybody else, but yeah, it's that one extra championship point home. The fight for P3 is well and truly on. Do you think you've got what it takes?
I mean, it all kind of depends on all these things, really. But I think yes, I think definitely. I think I should have P3, but you know, I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to get too much ahead of myself. Maybe I might for the next 5 races get DNS, but yeah, I think that's definitely the goal, P3. But yeah, we'll see how it goes, really.
And what will you be doing in your break? Because of course there's no race next week.
Just partying, P3. I've had such an unlucky first half of the season, in my opinion. I think I should have had at least a podium, probably in every race, to be fair. But it's so good to get another one today, and it's going to set me up for the second half of the season really well. So yeah, really glad.
Yeah, well, it should do. Congratulations on your podium today. You were pretty rapid towards the end of the stint, especially. That fastest lap would have out-qualified, I believe, 1, maybe 2 of the drivers. I know it would have out-qualified Brian, but yeah, well done today.
That's all right. Cheers, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. And now we'll bring in the second man into the box. Kyle, hello. How would we assess that race?
To be honest, don't want to talk about it, but I guess I come into an interview, so I kind of got to talk about it. I in the nicest way possible. I am really frustrated with that one. Like it's probably the first time this season I've actually got podium running pace. Bottled 2 quali laps, which is really annoying because I had a purple sector 1 on my second run, which would have, if I'd finished the lap cleanly, would have got me ahead of Dan Riley. Ultimately out of the trouble in the race, which is, I qualified poorly, which means I was behind Shaq and Daniel. And I don't know why they were battling into the corners they were battling in. It's not smart driving. So I ended up, I don't know obviously where you were on the stream at the time, but while they battled, I ended up going straight into the back of them in the corner because Shaq and Daniel were in that turn 4, which slowed them down dramatically because they were side by side. I just didn't expect it. Went straight into the back of him, and obviously the race was done from that point. I knew I could run hards to the end, but I was never gonna. Hards are terrible here. Like I wasn't even catching the pack. I was just running at the same pace of them, even though I had brand new tires on. The softs and the mediums lasted so long that it didn't gain me anything. So nothing short of a safety car really would have got me back in the race there. I was just kind of lucky that I had the pace on Brian in the end. That's the only position I could have really made up in that race. But yeah, it's a shame. I really thought I had podium running pace. So shame about that incident right at the start.
Was there any consideration when you did come into the pits to just switch onto a set of the mediums? Because of course the hards were awful, but do you reckon the mediums could have been any better?
Yeah, if you watch my stream back, I switched between them. I had it hard set, and then I went mediums, and then I went back to hards. I was really kind of, the mediums probably would have gone to the end. Potentially, they would have been quite poor at the end. If I'm honest, I was considering a 2-stop as well. I started on a fresh set of soft, so I had like a U set of soft that I did like 1 run on in quali that I could have used towards the end. But just in the moment, I had to decide quickly. I hadn't really hadn't foreseen that scenario happening, so I hadn't really pre-planned it, and so I had the option in the moment, and in the heat of the moment, that's the choice I went for. And I don't necessarily think it was the right one, if I'm honest. But yeah, I mean, I'm never going to know now. I might have gone mediums and not been able to catch Brian. So yeah, it's just a shame about the incident. Just to be clear, obviously that incident was no one's fault. It's my fault for driving into the back of it. I'm obviously a bit frustrated at them a little bit because they were fighting where they were, but it's racing, isn't it? Like I can't really blame them for battling each other. It's my fault for going into the back of them, so I can't blame anyone but myself. But yeah, a little bit frustrating today.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine it being frustrating when you feel you have that pace and then you just don't quite hold it up, especially with a break week coming up next week. What will you be doing? What will you be doing next Tuesday?
Nothing really. Probably go to the gym. There's one thing about this season, like when I'm racing my racing seasons, I don't get to the gym as much as I like. So we're gonna make up for that next week, I think. And yeah, just channel my energy into something else next Tuesday. But yeah, it'd be nice to just not have to worry about getting home from work and getting practice in for a week, and be ready for the final part of the season, which has got some quite fun tracks coming up. So I'm quite excited about it.
We do indeed. I mean, I mentioned it earlier in the broadcast. We've got Italy coming up, the next one, which should throw something into the mix.
Oh, yeah.
The 22nd of April will be racing in front of the Tifosi, and then Singapore, which can always throw something very intriguing up. Not necessarily as open to racing as Italy, but maybe rain, something along the lines of that could change that Singapore Grand Prix quite significantly. And then you've got Texas, where the first sector will catch pretty much everybody out at some point, so it'll be penalties galore. It'll be a sprint as well, so that should give the opportunity for everybody to get a few more championship points before we head to Sao Paulo, Brazil, for the 11th round of the season, in a circuit that certainly does encourage racing. And then we've got Las Vegas, which is chaos. And I think that's all you can say about that. Qatar will be another one where people will be caught out by those penalties. And then we'll end off the season in style. under the lights at Abu Dhabi on the 3rd of June. So we've got a couple more months of APC action we've got a couple more months of APC action ahead of us. So make sure to join us for them. But until next time, it is goodbye.
And we're underway and racing. Stay on the brakes, goodness me, what a launch! The outside of turn 1 and takes the lead of the race.